Hello and welcome to One Obsession at a Time, the podcast for women who are becoming their future selves through small, slightly magical obsessions. I'm Anastasia, and each week we're exploring the habits, books, routines, and little experiments that help us build a life we actually love. Hello and welcome back to One Obsession at a Time. This week I thought it would be fun to do another habit tracker check-in. So if you listen to my last episode, you'll know that I'm using a habit tracker. It has about 30 days on it, and I list about 10 habits. So let's dive in and see which ones are sticking and which ones aren't. So my 10K steps, that is definitely sticking. So in the past 11 days, I've only missed this one once. So it's become less of a negotiation with myself in the morning and just part of my normal day. And I do think that part of that is it's the first thing I do in the morning. I'm eating the frog, I get it out of the way, and the prompt is there. So when I walk my boys round to the school bus, that's when I begin my walk. I also have a dog to walk. So yeah, it actually feels like this one has put down some really good roots. The other habit that I'm doing really well on is my daily workout. So some days it's a proper workout. Some days it's just like 20 minutes. But in addition to my working, I'm either doing a community class or a bar Pilates workout on my Pilates app. And it's actually been really good timing because in the app, they've just started a 14-day challenge as well. So I'm getting the extra motivation from doing that. Okay, next habit that is actually doing really well is my 10 p.m. bedtime. I am really enjoying the early nights, and it's interesting because I've set the bedtime at 10 p.m. because that, I think it was Mindy Peltz who said, Stacey Sims. It was Stacey Sims who said that women hormonally have two sleep windows. One is 9 o'clock and the other one is 11 o'clock. And so she chooses the happy medium of 10 p.m. to go to sleep. And so I've chosen the same time, and I am hitting that more often than I'm not. It's not perfect. But last night I tried having some lemon balm tea before I went to bed, and that was so good. I actually felt so relaxed within about 10 minutes of having that. And I actually don't need help getting to sleep. I read to go to sleep. I fall asleep fine. It's just making sure that I get enough sleep and I get enough quality sleep. So doing really well. There are some habits here that I'm not doing so well at. And one of the main one there really is my diet. I have started tracking my calories and my macros, but I've done that before and it hasn't stuck with me. But when I'm looking at some of these habits like no sugar, eating in Whole30 style, and making sure I have 120 grams of protein, I think I've got the solution. And so over on Patreon, we're reading Tiny Habits together, and this week I finished chapter 3. And one thing I'm really taking away from this book is that habit building isn't like proving that you're disciplined, because as we know, discipline and motivation wanes. It's about really looking at these habits, and I just can't tell you how useful it's been to have this habit tracker in front of me to actually see what I've been doing and knowing why habits have survived and some haven't. And I can actually see through reading Tiny Habits this week, chapter 3 was all about making action easy. And it's not that I haven't made those things easy, but I think I can make them easier. So I'm actually thinking about, and I've been collecting some resources for this, so some meal prep resources of really healthy meals that I can prepare on one day and then eat the rest of the week. And I think if I prepared those in advance, I would be able to hit my protein goals, eat in the Whole30 style. So that's like no pasta, no bread, all that sort of stuff, and eliminate that sugar. So yeah, after reading chapter 3 this week, I'm like, yes, that's how I'm going to make that dietary part of my habits so much easier. So, this is really showing me, this habit tracker is really showing me what is becoming part of my identity and which ones I'm going to have to put a little bit of work into to make sure that I'm going to be able to achieve those. Otherwise, I know what's going to happen is I'm going to go, I don't want to do that anyway. I'll talk myself out of it. I'll self-sabotage. Actually, this week I listened to Grace Beverley's latest podcast episode, and it was about creating these habits and having 2 layers to it. And the first layer is your routines and your discipline and your motivation and all those sorts of things. And the second layer is your emotions. And I thought that's really interesting. She did mention if you keep starting and stopping repeatedly, that's a pattern, that's an emotional pattern. And interestingly, she didn't go into it further, and I really wish that she have done that. So I'm going to do a bit of research on that this week. What is the underlying emotional pattern there? Because I would like to dig into that. So anyway, this week I'd love you to think about your own habit tracker. Have you got one? I am singing the praises of habit trackers, not as a way to judge myself, but it's fantastic for collecting this information, seeing which habits are surviving, seeing which ones are quietly fading away, and can you rescue them? Can you rescue them by making them easier? Can you rescue them by making them tinier, by having a prompt? Like, for example, on my habit tracker, I have no sugar. I haven't achieved that every day, but if I had put no dessert, then I actually would have met that most days except for one day, which was my husband's birthday. So it's really important to make sure that your habits, I don't want to say, so small that you are able to tick them off every day, because that's not the point. But we're trying to build healthy habits, but make them small enough that you can see that you are making progress, because progress is much better than perfection. Okay, if you're reading Tiny Habits along with me over on Patreon, this week's conversation is all about observing our habits. And we're not trying to be perfect, we're just trying to get a little bit better. And this week we have read about making those actions easy. And yeah, it's a great chapter, so come and join us. Thank you so much for listening. And if you're enjoying the podcast, I'd love it if you'd follow along and leave a rating or review. It really helps this little community to grow. Okay, I'll talk to you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you'd rate, review, and follow the podcast. It really does help it to grow. Don't forget, we also have a paid podcast where we explore the books and the topics that I talk about every week a little bit deeper, and you can find that in the links of the show. Also, remember, you actually don't need a whole new life. You just need to follow one obsession at a time. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.